The link, proudly sponsored by Dial Rentone, IT&E, Cabo Enterprises, the Thrive Coalition, and Carrier. Good morning. It's 7:53. Let's head into the KWM newsroom room where one of the things that we've been fearing would not happen during this pandemic has happened. Talking about an outbreak at the Department of Corrections. Bree, there was some numbers that came out, I think Friday, right? As they did some testing. Oh, okay.
Right, with the inmates?
Right, they
and
did.
Detainees. I think it was 8, right, Joe? 8 out of the 208?
And 3, I think, tests they conducted. We have Director Joe Carbullido. Good morning. Good morning, Joe.
Oh, wait,
Unmute. Unmute. Anagi.
You there?
Yeah, no, give him a sec.
Yeah, I believe it was out of the 203.
Can you hear me now?
We got you. Yeah, good morning, Joe.
Okay. Morning.
So, just take us back to Friday when you guys tested the inmates and detainees. Because I think when I messaged you Saturday, you said 8 out of the 203 inmates and detainees tested had returned positive,
Correct.
right?
That's correct.
Okay, but how many more? Were there any other inmates that were tested and detainees? Because 203 doesn't seem like the total population over at Mingilao. Oh, you there?
Hold on a second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were frozen.
I had to decline the call. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It interrupted.
Right on.
All right.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. So yeah, 8 out of the 203 tested positive. That's correct.
Are there any more inmates and detainees that need to be tested?
Yes, there is. We're expecting another batch of testing tomorrow from 9 to 12 at the main facility in Manila. And then about 2 days later, on the 12th, we're going to be testing the Hagåtña detention facility.
Joe, what about the staff, right? We're hearing that, is it about half of the staff is out on quarantine or because they tested positive for the virus?
Quarantine and isolation.
Yeah.
No. So the numbers didn't really change from the last time we spoke or we gave an update. So we still have 39 positives and 48 that are quarantined. So that's a total of 87. Actually, the numbers went down because we have some officers that are already starting to come back from the mandated 14-day quarantine. And we're going to continue to see more officers come back because they're already pretty much completed with the quarantine period. So we're expecting more coming back this week out of that 87 that I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Joe, can you just clarify the 203 that were tested on Friday? Where are these inmates and detainees from?
They're from the Manila facility.
Are they just special housing unit or can you say?
No, we tested like around 6 or 7 housing units, just the smaller population. Post 2, 3, 17, 18, and 8. So we tested like about 5 or 6 total posts, and we still have like another 200 plus remaining, which will be tested tomorrow.
I saw that you guys had released that the inmates, the 8 inmates detainees who were positive are being isolated. Where exactly are they being isolated?
We have our isolation facility on post 7. We've let me just say that this was expected. We've been expecting this from the very beginning of this pandemic. We have a contingency operations plan that will automatically kick in, and once something like this occurs, and unfortunately, we were safe for 6-7 months into the pandemic, and now we're currently experiencing the worst case scenario that we were thinking may be occurring, which has already been occurring stateside, nationwide. So we have a plan in place. We're prepared for it, and we're now standing up that plan. We have the isolation facility. Those inmates that have tested positive are isolated in the designated isolation facility.
Are you still there, Joe? We lost your video.
Yes,
Okay, there you are.
yes, I'm sorry. Oh, my phone is like really
Pretty
getting
popular.
low power. So let's try and get this a little quicker because my phone is running out of juice. But anyway, so yeah, we're doing what we can. We've activated our contingency operations plan, and part of that plan is the isolation facility, and we've been coordinating and constantly in communications with both CDC and public health regarding our situation. We've requested for them to come up this week or the past weekend, which was on Saturday, to evaluate where we're at as far as our situation, and they've made some recommendations, and we'll be trying to implement those recommendations.
Joe, are you anticipating more positives in the inmate and detainee population?
That you know, I don't want to jinx it, but I'm almost
Certain.
sure that there'll be some, probably more
The 8
that's expected.
the 8 that were tested on Friday, are they from one particular unit or post, or kind of spread out between the 5?
One, for the most part, the 7 came from one post, and 1 came from another.
So
Joe, oh, go ahead.
what happened to the inmates that were in the same post with the?
They're isolated. They're isolated. They're all isolated. That's all part of the plan.
Right.
Once they've tested positive, then they're going to be isolated away from the whole population.
I meant the ones that were in close contact to the 8.
Oh, they're still in there, and we're closely monitoring them. We have a medical staff that's closely monitoring them for any symptoms, but they're separated from the positives.
Joe,
So were the officers that were positive with COVID? They must have had contact with these inmates and detainees. Is that safe to say, considering these inmates and detainees, they're not going anywhere?
yeah, they're in jail.
You can probably make that assumption, but there's nothing definite. They're still trying to do the contact tracing. We've done our part as far as we've done our part. We don't wait for public health to do their contact tracing, because sometimes that takes a while, right? They're overwhelmed themselves. So we start our own internal contact tracing, and we start removing people and quarantining people as we see fit based on just even exposure. And that's what we've been doing with our staff. I've directed our staff, even if they've had some type of exposure, or there's even a possibility of exposure, I directed them to just stay home and quarantine. And that's why you have a higher number of quarantined staff.
Joe, what
because
about
we've done that internally on our own.
family members of the COVID positive inmates, detainees? How do they get updates on the condition? How do they know?
We have a solid plan in place. We're doing the best we can with that plan moving forward, and we're going to continue to adjust with the plans, because there's really no definite plan for this pandemic. It changes. Everything, the variables change, so we adjust based on the variables that we're faced with.
Right.
Right now, I think we're doing pretty good. We of course we would like not to have any infections, but like I said, it was expected, and it's we're not any different from anywhere else in the nation, where this pandemic is really affecting everyone.
Are the inmates, detainees, are they all asymptomatic?
For the most part, yes.
Okay. The well, I forgot what I was gonna ask.
Sorry.
The 8 detainees. Can you and inmates? Can you tell us how many are detainees and how many are inmates?
I think it's about half and half. There's about 3 or 4 detainees out of the 8 and 4 inmates, something to that effect.
Are any of the 4 like recently sent over to DOC in the past couple of weeks?
No, they've been there.
Okay. And you said you stood up this isolation unit within DOC. Have you had to bring on any medical personnel to help assist and monitor these inmates and detainees?
We have our GMH internal medical staff that monitors everything.
Is that like on a 24-hour?
They're here in our main facility and down at the Hagana detention facility. So we have medical staff on both facilities.
Are there any plans to, I guess, professionally sanitize or disinfect? I mean, I know it's a huge area, but I'm just curious if that's part of the master plan, response plan, or
The plan of the plan that you plan for?
We're trying to coordinate that effort however we can do it, because it's very difficult. As you know, it's gonna, when you do the disinfecting with the spray, it's gonna take 24 hours before you're allowed to come back in. So how are we gonna move like 70 or 80 from one post to another post? There's gonna be some challenge there, but we're trying our best to see how we can best do that without compromising security.
Joe, have there been any conversation at all with the Guam Police Department or even the Guard in terms of them supplying you guys with some extra personnel to make up for the shortages due to the officers who have COVID or are on quarantine or isolation?
So again, we're not there yet. The staffing issue is part of our contingency operations plan. Okay, so we've redirected some of our staffing resources around. We've adjusted scheduling. In other words, we've called in all our regular days offs. So we're trying not to or exhaust our personnel, but days off has been canceled, and we're probably going to give them 1 out of the 2 days off to rest. But for the most part, we're doing good. We still have the numbers that come in to work, and it's sufficient enough to run the operations. We have 50 plus officers that still report to work for the 2 different shifts after moving around all the different non-essential staffing. So we have, we've moved people from those non-essential areas like transport, support, admin, and even parole. We've have them helping out. So we're okay for now. We're managing with the personnel that we do have, and we will reach out to the other law enforcement agencies when the need comes. But right now we're okay.
Okay.
wow. Well, anything else, Joe?
Yeah, let me just close by saying that I know it looks bad right now, just the way, it seems like for people out there that are looking from outside in, and it may get worse for all we know, right? We just don't know how this pandemic really is right now. We're at the height or even in the middle of this pandemic. So the reality is that we're in the middle of it, okay? And probably, again, like I said, it's expected something like this was going to happen. We're prepared, and we've been prepared from the very beginning. We have our plans in place. We've implemented all our policies for all the preventive measures. It's been working. It worked for the first 7, 8 months now that we're into this pandemic. Unfortunately, there's some things that's out of our control. You know, our staff have to go home, right, after work, and they have to come back to work. Those are some things that I can't control. I have policies in place for them to adhere to, but I can't follow them around when they leave work. It's bound to happen. We kind of expected something like this to happen. We have our bubble, and we've been protecting our bubble for the longest time. It's just unfortunate that it's now,
Popped.
happening.
Yeah.
As far as the exposure and the infection, and we're trying to control it. We're working tediously with public health and CDC to see what else we can do to control the outbreak, so to speak, as you guys call it. But we're confident with our plan that's in place, and we're looking at even adding to our isolation facility just in case we need more space. Mm-hmm. We're in discussion with public health. Both public health and DPW as a resource. The governor has given me all the resources and support that I need, including senators that have called me. So everyone is concerned, and I understand the concerns, but I rest assured we're doing everything that we can to protect our population, and we're going to continue to fight this battle with this COVID and try to protect our population as the best that we can, the best way we know we can.
Joe, real quickly, how many beds do you have in your isolation designated isolation unit?
We can the maximum that we can probably put in there is 40 right now.
40, okay.
But like I said, we're making arrangements as another backup isolation facility to try and stand up another one just in case.
In the compound?
We need the extra space. Yes, okay. Correct. Okay.
You good, Bree?
Can you just Can you just kind of describe like how long of a shift your officers are working now that since you were down 93 or 87?
They're still working 12 hours like they're supposed to. Sometimes they exceed that 14 hours, depends on the relief that they're getting. Like I said, we had to activate our regular days off, cancel those regular days off and have them come in to support. And but for the most part, we're still operating normal. We still have enough staffing because we've moved around personnel.
Okay.
12-hour day, that's normal.
Yes,
right.
12 hours is the shift that's the normal shift that they work.
Well,
they actually work 12 hours for 5 days, 2 days off. But now we've canceled one of those days off. But we still have to make sure that they're rested, so they get at least the 1 day off out of the 2.
Right. Well, we're definitely thinking about you guys and praying not just for the safety of the inmates and the detainees, but also the staff and everyone there at the prison.
Yes.
Okay? I give our best to Major Anton.
Yes, just pray for us.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll start to get back to normal when our staffing starts coming back. Like I said, they're starting to come back already by this week, and next week we should be back to full manning.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
And
right, thank you.
We'll catch up with you after you do another batch of the inmate testing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. So,
right,
there you go, Joe Carbullido, the director of the Department of Corrections. Real quick break, and we're coming back with